Okay, let's see if that works. Anybody can hear me? Send me a message. Georgia, same on YouTube. Yeah, I know. Can you hear that? Can anybody hear my voice? Somebody give me some feedback. Yes. All right.
I can hear
Thank you
you.
very much. So, something, I don't know why, I keep getting told that we're in Mercury retrograde and that this kind of stuff happens. And for whatever we can say about whether or not astrology affects our technology, it has been a thing. So this has really been happening where a lot of stuff that normally goes really perfectly well, repeatedly, just in the last couple of days, has just been like super not working the way it normally does technologically. So I have backup plans for this kind of stuff so that the show goes on. The other thing I'm trying to do right now is figure out how to watch my own live stream on Facebook because I don't get all the comments in here. And let's just see here. I saw these people joining in and watching, and it's the 3 second watch, the 5 second watch. What's Peter talking about? So got up to 4 viewers and down to 2 viewers, but this is what it is. So I can't, for some reason it says I'm going live, but it's not actually live. So I'm not sure how that works as well. I don't even know how you're finding me in Facebook to watch me right now. But I'd love to get started, and I just want to make sure that it is working for, of course, I don't want to waste any time, especially since this is being recorded. And if you can't hear me, that kind of stuff, right? It's fine. So I'm going to keep refreshing this Facebook page just to make sure that I can see. Hi, everyone. Thanks a lot for coming. I'll start in a few seconds. So just hang in there. So I am live. Great. Okay, there we go. Jennifer Buildup is in the house, maybe. I'm just going to say hi there. Okay. So let's see if I can get those comments coming in from Jennifer. Beautiful. All right, let's get started. I don't know who's watching right now. It just shows me that people are watching. So please type a message, say hi. Helps me out a lot to know who you are and where you're from. And also, it does show me if you type a message, it shows me that I'll get your questions because some of this is live. Some of the reason why this is live is so that we can do some interaction. I can answer questions based on this content. I say that every week, but every week there's different people watching. So I say the same thing, which is welcome to my show, my little weekly. There's Johnny. Hey, Johnny, how are you? Thank you very much for saying that. Georgia is in. Hello. And Jennifer, our weekly long haul trucker, might check in soon and say hi as well. We'll see how that goes. Okay, so this week we're going to be talking about how life is not a duality, it's a paradox, and what that means. Because this is all really a matter of perspective, and that's what we're going to be talking about. Because the entire intention of this weekly stream is to. That's great. I can hear you doing well, John. The whole purpose of this stream is for personal empowerment. It's what I focus on is how we can find some form of control over our thoughts, our emotions, and our perspective, so that we can have some influence over our internal world and be able to live the life that we want from our perspective of happiness, acceptance, fun, working hard, whatever the case may be. But a lot of that does really get affected by your perspective. So today we're going to be talking quite a bit about this perspective, about duality versus paradox. So this is what I'm trying to say to you. So I was told a story once of somebody I did some training with for many years. Actually, his name is Oscar de Los Santos. He's a medicine carrier from Uruguay. He's a very wise person who's studied in many different things, and who guided me to study in a variety of things as well, to be able to have good perspective, different perspectives. And the more that we learn, the more accepting we become, the more creative we become, and also the less trapped we can feel in a situation. Because with more perspectives, we can see ways of creating solutions or even just changing our experience. So he told me a story of going to see a very experienced, let's say, monk or meditator. And he asked the meditator this question. Oscar asked the meditator this question. I'm saying meditator because I can't remember his official title, but the kind of monk he was or whatever, and I don't want to mess it up. He says, can you describe the hole in a piece of wood without acknowledging or referring to the wood? And Oscar did this. I'm looking around to see I have a piece of wood right now that has a hole in it. Lo and behold, I literally have one. What are the chances of that? This is the handle that I use when I'm making frame drops. I like using the wood handles. There's a little hole, right? See the magic of my camera. Find this. There it is. There's a hole in the wood. So how do you speak of the hole that's in this wood without referring to the wood at all? It's really hard in reverse, by the way. So the point of this is, I'm just checking to see in case anybody actually answers. How do you know there is a hole here at all without having some awareness of the wood? Would there even be a hole here if there was no wood? I can do the same thing with my hand, I guess. No hole, hole. What's the point of this? Point is that if we look at life as being a paradox of having things that are rigid and things that are fluid, like this whole, things that are, mm, let's say, judgmental. That's another way of being rigid. Judgmental, labeling, analyzing. Some people would even call it more of a masculine trait to be rigid, firm, strict, but also analytical. And the whole is a space in which anything can exist in. Okay, there's freedom to put things into this space. We would consider this to be more of a yin, feminine, uh, fluid, flexible. mm, Yeah, I got those words are good enough. Element or object or thing. Okay, so this does not exist without that. Let's say the yin in here doesn't exist without this yang, to be more accurate. And yet, if it's all yang, this here would look like this. It would be just all solid. It would just be a big chunk of wood, right? So if we keep speaking of yin and yang, or masculine and feminine, ups and downs, and the whole pendulum of life, of the scale of happiness and sadness, if we keep speaking of them as individual things, what's in here and this, then this can lead to argument. Whose side are you on? Are you part of the rigid or part of the flexible? And that led me to thinking of another story, which is a bit more famous. I believe it to be Cherokee of origin, but it sounds something like, let me get, here. The two wolves. Inside each of us are two wolves. Forgive the word evil here. I didn't type that, but I would not call this evil. I would call it something else. So one is black, and we would say anger, envy, sorrow, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment. And one we call white. Okay, let's just call it black and white. Let's not use good and evil, although that's kind of on the scale down here. Those should be down here. One is black, that one, and one is white. Which some people call good, joy, love, hope, peace, serenity, humility, kindness. Okay? So these two wolves are always at war. It doesn't say that up here. They're fighting each other inside of us all the time. Which of the two wolves wins? And the saying is whichever one you feed the most. But I'm going to present something a little bit different here. In the realm of therapy, or let's say the mental body, the mind body, in our psychology and the way that our brains are made up, if you pick a side, so let's say inside of you, you have a part of you that is very upset that something has happened. And that part of you decides that being called an idiot is hurtful and it's deserving to be resentful against and to fight against it. So it's deserving of being angry about. And being called idiot might make you feel that it's worthy of being sad about. We would call that the black wolf. If there's another part of you that is called an idiot, it's possible that it meets that with love, with some form of compassion, empathy, understanding, or laughter. Just it's a joke. What a silly thing to be told that I'm an idiot. That doesn't land with me whatsoever. Ha ha ha, that's funny. So these two wolves, or these two sides inside of us, can coexist, but they're by nature separate, and they are opposites. and that is the black and the white wolf starting to fight against each other. Well, should I let it go that they just called me an idiot? Like, should I stand up for that? Should I say something? Should I, or should I just let it go? Like it's not a big deal. But if I don't stand up against it and do something to stand up against it, it might continue. It might continue on. It might start calling everybody an idiot. And if I just fluff it off. But if I don't just fluff it off, am I just wasting my time complaining about something that really isn't very meaningful? How do we do this? And that's why I asked in the write-up for the stream, do you find yourself on a pendulum swing, where you keep swinging from one side to another of, yeah, it's okay, I think I can be fine. Oh, wait, maybe I can't be fine. What if this goes wrong? What if that goes wrong? You swing from having trust to having doubt. Well, here's the interesting thing about dualities. We pick a side, which one wins, and that in itself is actually the trap. Because the question itself specifies that only one can win, but this is not true. If you have literally two wolves, and you keep feeding one wolf, eventually the other wolf will grow weak and will grow tired. The one you're not feeding will start to lose power, physical power. And the one you're feeding will get stronger and more awake, but will also become more comfortable, more relaxed, less on edge. And this is the same thing inside of you. If you keep feeding an easy life, if you keep feeding relaxing and not standing up against anything, then there's a relaxation that comes. But see, here's what happens with wolves. If you don't feed one of them, they'll become irritated, angry, and that becomes fuel for a fight that will actually empower the wolf that's not being fed to stand up and to argue and to fight and to attack. And so the wolf that is not being fed will have more reason to fight back. The wolf that is being fed, while that might be strong, while that might grow, might also be complacent, easygoing, let things go. And so it's quite possible, in my description of these two wolves, that it's actually the one that is not fed that wins, because it has more reason to fight, to survive. So then this whole thing flips, as it always does in a duality. Well, I don't know, maybe I just made a good case for why the wolf that we don't feed wins. And there's, of course, very logical perspective to why the wolf that you do feed would win. Because where attention goes, energy flows, right? So it should grow. But see, this isn't as simple as that. Because if you get attacked by the wolf that you weren't feeding, it literally takes your attention away. Now, I get that into saying it's about which one will win in a fight between each other, but you see, what it leaves out here is that you're the viewer. So there's still always three of you, and this is very important when we're dealing with dualities, because a duality will always incur both sides. It will always involve the whole and the wood. It will always involve the space, the yin and the yang. You can't separate them. For whatever you do to try and dissolve one, you will actually create the space for the other. And this is how life is not a duality, it's in fact a paradox. By feeding the wolf that you want to get strong, you could inadvertently create more fight, more desire, more drive in the wolf that you're not feeding, which actually it sums up its power, as we said. So which wolf is going to win? Well, here's the thing. See, yin and yang tend to flip. So if that black wolf gets up and starts fighting the white wolf, there's a very good chance of winning just because it has more desire to. But the white wolf has more energy It might maybe last longer. So one with more drive to fight and survive to gain its food. The other one with more strength and more longevity. Well, that becomes equal, and there then, which one wins? In that case, possibly both or neither. Neither. It becomes a paradox, where one is always flipping and replacing the other. This is why people pendulum swing. So we might see that if there's a very large rise of the masculine, toxic masculine, overpowering patriarchy and controlling, how many years will that go on for before nature causes the flip in this duality and suddenly female power rises? Support for the feminine comes. Well, we can say we've been feeding the male patriarchy for so long. Why isn't it winning? Why would it be inevitable that it would lose if the one we feed should win? But that's not how life is. Life is not a duality. It is a paradox. That the more you feed one, the more hungry the other gets, and the more fight, the more desire, the more drive it can get. They say this about, I've heard this about grapes. They took grapes that, they were pretty sure they were red grapes, and they were growing them in the most fertile environment and getting a certain kind of flavor out of the grapes. They discovered that in a year of drought, where there was not enough water, so the land was very dry and rocky, that the grapes that grew in that dry land actually became more flavorful. They said that they believed, I don't have a reference, I can't remember who the vineyard was or where this quote came from, but it is a quote, that they discovered that the grapes, they believed, had to fight harder. So while there were less grapes and they were smaller, they were more robust, had a bolder flavor, and produced a more flavorful wine. I'm not going to call it better because everything is good to those who think it's good, right? That's the whole point of this talk today. But it still survived. It just evolved into something else. Where the grapes should have died, some of them did, but the ones that fought harder literally created a whole new experience. A stronger, bolder grape. Less, but you don't need as many to make such a flavorful wine. It eventually balanced itself out. So let's start applying this to life. Any questions or any comments? Okay. If we keep arguing about dualities, we're just going to create more reason for fight. Okay? So, if you decide that you wish to be a fireman, firewoman, fire person, I don't know if that's a thing yet, okay? All I know is fireman. Okay? So, if you choose to be a fireman, you sit around all day in a firehouse with your fire dog and your fire truck. I guess everything's got fire in front of it if you're a fireman. Your fire hose, these are things. So you're sitting there, you've trained, you've prepared, looking ready for a fire. What's going to happen? You're going to get called about a fire. Did you create that fire? Well, let's say no. The whole reason why we got a fireman is because there were fires, right? So the fires created the need for the fire person. But if the fire person goes and fights all the fires and finds ways to design places that they don't light on fire, there's actually an idea that it's a matter of time that people will surface a need to exist. So there's a belief that if a person is a healer and there's no one that needs to be healed, they will start just in the idea of watching out for somebody that needs to be healed. They will actually create a situation where somebody gets hurt. If a fireman sits around thinking about fires all day, there is a belief that there's a greater chance of a fire existing simply because a fireman is sitting thinking about it. So where the fireman's job is to make there be no fires, literally by sitting and thinking about fires, it actually increases the chance of an accidental fire. Thereby, the fireman is actually creating the fire. A person who's a healer is looking for people that need to be healed. Their thoughts are put towards that through the laws of manifestation. Somebody gets hurt simply because the thought was that way. So we might have somebody say, "Oh, careful now, don't fall." The chances are that that person will fall because that is a suggestion to their subconscious mind to think about falling. And through the powers of our minds and the power of suggestion, we tend to create out into the world what we think or do the most. I think that was last week's stream was about this. We get or become what we think about most of the time. We get or become what we think about most of the time. So a healer who thinks about people that need to be healed and studies all the ways that people are harmed and hurt so that they need to be healed. If they study those harmful, hurtful things, they're actually increasing the chances of it happening. And therein is the paradox. Is this not a duality? It's a paradox. You cannot have a hero, cannot exist if there isn't a villain. You cannot have a healer if there isn't somebody who's sick. And you can't exclusively have people that are sick without developing healing. One will always create the other, and therein the paradox is that it is one thing. So let's start applying that to your life. Here's an interesting thing that happens all the time. Literally, I just had a client today about this exact same thing. You find that a person can go through life in a series of repeating events of trauma, let's say some form of abuse in a relationship. Over and over again, they get out of an abusive relationship and they just go right into another one. And most of the time, the abuse is the same. So if it's sexual abuse, the next relationship will be some form of sexual abuse, which will lead to some form of inappropriate physical action. Or if it's verbal abuse, it will lead to some other form of verbal abuse, and it will just keep on repeating that pattern in some way. So if a person continues through completing this cycle of abuse, till one day they're going to keep doing that until something changes, a new idea, a new opportunity, something comes up, or they cut themselves off, okay? But in either case, whether they cut themselves off or a person appears that gives them hope and shows them a new way, as soon as the person who's been in a series of abusive relationships goes to a relationship that is totally good, perfect, helpful, healing, expansive, safe, in that relationship, the person who came from a series of abusive relationships will start to doubt the person that is very good. And it's actually very difficult for most people to leave an abusive relationship. They tend to stay in it because of low self-esteem and self-doubt. That they're going to have something better outside of the abuse. You finally get a relationship where everything is good and helpful and peaceful, and you start to doubt that. The abusive relationship causes the person to tend to stay in it. That is actually the statistic. The good relationship that an abused person goes into, they tend to push apart. From fear, loss, from doubt that it could be so good. So why does that happen? Well, when a person is in extreme situations, their brain will actually compartmentalize, will separate out the ideas. We'll create a trauma idea that is separate from a hope idea, okay? That there's still ideas and ways of planning to try and get out of it, to try and create hope, but then there's a doubt section, and here's your black and white wolf. Then the doubt section starts to create fears of being caught or it being worse, or fears that if we're alone, we're going to fail. So it's better to be with somebody who's at least possibly good some of the time. Okay? So now the two wolves form in the trauma. I'm a good person, I deserve better. Maybe I'm not a good person. Oh, I should stay here. Oh no, they're abusing me again. Maybe I deserve it. Maybe they're right. The internal fight happens. Segments out, compartmentalizing. Some people even develop two different personalities with two totally different names with opposing ideas. If we pay attention the most to the idea of, I have hope, I know I can get through this, it's going to be fine, that part of us starts to grow. It starts to look like it's going to win the fight. That white wolf gets bigger. We keep feeding it. I can do this. The world is there to help me. And, I know that I'm going to get the support I need if I just believe in myself. We start pumping ourselves up. But in that case, that person leaves that relationship, gets a perfect relationship that they totally deserve. They're feeding that every day. This is amazing. This is everything I want. What happens? The black wolf was being ignored. The doubt, the pain and the suffering, all the hurt that was inside gets stuck in that compartment and starts to get stronger. It starts to build because it now has a desire, has more fight to be heard, to be let out of the cage. Trauma doesn't want to stay in the brain. So while life is great and everything's amazing, sabotage, self-sabotage starts kicking in. The doubt, the starting to wonder if maybe things are too good to be true. And that wolf starts to fight back. Why does it fight back if it was never being fed in the first place? Because life is a paradox and we must have balance. You cannot feed only one side of anything. It will find a way. Life will find a way to give energy to the thing that was not fed. And it will become a giant monster. It will become a steaming, biting, cutting voice in the head if it's ignored. What we feed grows, but the paradox is what we ignore can also grow. So how do you actually get out of this situation? How do you get out of the fight of the two wolves? Constantly going at each other. Well, best way to stop a fight is to feed both. If you have trauma, if you have fear, if you have pain, feed it attention. Don't feed it fear. If you have love and you have so many things going good and so great for yourself, remember that there was a time in your life that you didn't have that. Give it to that time that you've forgotten or put aside. Give some of that joy and direct it at the part of you that didn't have it. For the part of you that you shoved away, you didn't want to hear its voice, you didn't want it to speak, you didn't know how to let it speak, you didn't have words, or it wasn't safe to do it at that time. Bring it to a place that's safe and give it a voice. Let it blow off that steam. Let it share. Both sides must be fed equally to create balance. We literally have a left and right brain. We have an analytical and an abstract mind, abstract being the right side. One is trying to package everything, create structure. The other one is trying to create space. The right side is trying to create anomalies, abstract, fluidity, unpredictability. So the secret to life is to take, let's say, Jen got on. Our weekly long haul trucker Jennifer Goldup is currently in Canada, apparently in North York. I'm glad that you're in Canada and doing well. Nice to see you. So by understanding that we have left and right brain, left and right side, yin and yang, by feeding them equally with each other, we create balance. And therein is how the yin-yang face gets created. It's so interesting that this shows which wolf wins the one you feed, but as we just described, that's not true, because the one you starve will fight and bite and fight back. and we'll eventually find a way to create balance again. This yin yang, oh, I just realized I'm moving my mouse over like a laser pointer. You can't see it. So, there's my hands. That's my left, and there's my right. Okay. Notice the white eye on the black side, and there's some black in the white eye on this side, or the black ear, you might say, actually, in this case. So, at the point where you have a lot of fear, and a lot of doubt, and a lot of whatever we call that, the black side, just bear with me, black side, lots of fear, lots of doubt, lots of greed, that side, this side of you, can actually make a request, can ask for help from the white side. I'm pointing at the wolf, by the way, not the words. At the white side of you. The white side of you, seeing that there's something that needs help, now has a reason to look for help. The part of you that is failing is giving a purpose for the part of you that is the solver. As the part of you continues to solve, it has no reason to do it without a problem to be solved. And therein, it gives its white into the black. The black is fed and comes up with more problems for the white to solve. And the balance here, it's like I got a wolf head while I'm talking to you for the next little bit here. There's my left side. So my painful side needs to cry. It needs to talk. My self-care side will journal, sing, give it space, give it structure. This will then have a place. This black side will have a place to cry, a place to move. The black is that yin, random chaos that needs structure. And the white side says, I have structure for you. I'm going to create structure here with my right hand. This is chaos. This is scary. It wants to bounce around. It doesn't know what to predict. It's too hard to let out the screaming, the crying. It doesn't know where to go if it's going to break and bust up its life. But the structured part of you could say, I know what to do. Let's give it some boundaries. Let's funnel this black side into some art, some dancing. Let's funnel it into talking to somebody. Let's funnel it to music or expressive dances. Let's put it somewhere. But it needs to be heard. It needs to be seen. And this side, feeling scared of rejection, is starting to feel like it's been given structure. And so, now put this off screen. This side that looks like it's totally random, really hard to do. It's put in here, a safe structure. The chaos is now something that can be spoken of because it is given a reference point. It's given boundaries. What fits in this boundary we can speak of. We can see it. We can now hear it. We can see where that pain is. And it's in a structure so it feels safe. But one created the other. The chaos created the need for the structure. The structure we never would have made. We had no chaos to put in it. And so they become one unit. And that's where balance comes from, is understanding the paradox that we need peace in our lives to put our chaos into. And our chaos needs peace so it feels safe to express. And at some point, one will stop trying to fight the other in some way, and they will create this stillness, this resolve, this balance. In psychotherapy, we call it integration. A unity will come. But it's not that we're losing the pain or the guilt. We still have access to it. But it's within a structure of balance, that there's a time and place for it. And that's the paradox. You can't actually get rid of anxiety. We just have a way of managing it through structure so that it doesn't feel like anxiety. But we can't be rid of anxiety, because without it, we would jump off of buildings. We would walk too close to edges and not be scared enough that we're close to it. And so that's the paradox of life. that the duality aren't two separate things, but they're actually two halves of a whole. And so when that person I spoke of that was in a series of abusive relationships goes into a loving, peaceful, this is the series of abusive relationships, goes into a loving one, it tests the boundaries, it fights against it. And the boundaries stay solid. I got you. You're not going to break me. I'm solid. I'm peaceful. I have good self care. Oh, I just want to destroy things because that's how I feel inside. I understand. Do that in here. And what happens is the chaos sees itself in the bouncing and has self awareness. The structure is looking at it the whole time and has awareness. And awareness happens from the chaos of witnessing itself, the yin, and the structure of being witnessed, the yang, and the witnessing reflects each other. And therein they see that they're one unit. And synchronicity, it's literally called the hemisphere syncing. Your brain hemispheres sync, and literal genius comes. Creative force comes when we're balancing our wholeness, our paradox. So if we keep going to create good things in the world, and we keep fighting for something, I guarantee you somebody's going to feel rejected from that, and they're going to fight back. You keep talking about how great pizza is, somebody's going to come along and go, I disagree. You shouldn't be fighting so hard for pizza. We should be having noodles. That's the duality. But if we say, I love all food, everything is accepted. There's no fight. That's the paradox is, I accept and acknowledge all ways, even though I choose to live one. There's no fight in that. Internally, of course. Because as a whole, as a human culture, we're still working on this acceptance and permission. The boundaries, but that share. The paradox is there'll never be an end to the war unless both sides are fed equally in some way. And if we stop feeding one, we will fight. And if we feed the other one way too much, eventually everything that wasn't fed is going to come like a wave and crash it down. This is why rulers that start to take over the world, they've all failed, always. Romans did not take over the world and make it all Rome. The British did not take over the whole world and make it Britain. They tried. Mongolia, Genghis Khan did not take over the whole world. Napoleon did not take over the world. No matter how much something is fed, it eventually will flip and become powerless. So it's only in that understanding of the paradox that we'll find balance. Stop the pendulum swing. I'm so sad. I just want to go party and be happy. Oh, wow, I partied, was so happy. I'm now so tired. Well, tiredness is starting to make me feel like I'm sad because that's just neurochemicals making me do that. Now, because I'm so tired, I feel so run down, I'm going to drink a bunch of coffee. Now I'm all excited, but not happy, just excited. Wow, that's really draining me. And now I feel tired and drained. So now I'm tired, sad, run down, and I'm starting to lose the ability to think straight. The pendulum swing just creates more pendulum swing. The answer is always balance. Well, there you go. I hope that served you and helped you in some way today. Feel free to ask some questions, or if you want to apply what we talked about, something that's happening in your life, I'm happy to do that with you live. I am, what do they call that? Metaphorically listening to crickets. quiet. So if nobody has anything that they want to share or ask, oh, there's Lydia. Lydia just showed up. Hi, Lydia. Wave. You see me? Can you hear me? Oh, garbage out. Hi, Lydia. Did you hear anything that happened in the last 45 minutes yet? Ah, okay. I just ended and said, well, there you go. Let's hear it. You just showed up. So I opened the floor to questions. No, of course. That's awesome, Lydia. Just watch the replay. But I'm opening up the floor to, but I'm super happy that you showed up. That was really awesome that you did. Because, yeah, sometimes I do actually go for the rest of the 15 minutes and you'd be catching the last bit. But I'm leaving it open for questions and feedback. But so far, I haven't heard from Jennifer Goldup, our truckers in North York. We missed that. Oh, there we go. Yasmin is saying that she resonated with giving both sides attention. Yeah. Which side wins is not the one you feed, because the one you don't feed will still pick up and fight. So balance. Feed it all, and balance comes, and then everything actually wins. Okay? That's the synopsis there for you. Thanks to our usuals. Thanks for Yasmin and Jennifer and Johnny and Georgia. Thanks everybody for checking in. Thanks for everybody that's come and said hi. And if anybody's missed this, hopefully you'll find a replay. And just how do we manage this? I still feel like both at the same time. All right, question from Yasmin. How do we manage both sides? I sometimes feel both at the same time. Okay, so if we're feeding both sides of an argument, the answer to that is, Jen's listening. Okay, so the question on the table is, if we're feeding both sides, which what I've been talking about for the whole time, just because of somebody that's just coming in at the end, I'm just showing this. Okay, so it's kind of what we were talking about today. You can read that. So let's say we're feeding both sides, and let's say I have an argument. I feel like I allow both men to say, yeah. So sometimes, obviously, if we say, well, look, I'm driving up and there's a Y. Okay, I got to pick a left or a right. I can't literally divide it in half and go both ways in the current moment. Maybe I can do that one later, pick one now. Okay, so that's answer number one. Sometimes we go, well, I want to feed both sides of the choices at the same time. I want to be really loving that something just happened, but I also want to be really pissed off that it happened. Which one should I feed? And I say, both. I understand that this deserves a lot of love. And at the same time, I understand that I'm very angry about this. So I want to give some love to my anger, express it for a little bit. Now I'm going to give some attention to my love, express that a little bit. What's the balance? Well, this is where most people have the trouble of actually combining the two. What is the most peaceful thing to do about this? The answer is presence. So if we then sit in a place of presence where we honor that there's two ways and we literally sit at that Y, like we see both sides, we come back. We go to that side, we come back. Okay? I want chocolate, vanilla, have a little bit of chocolate, have a little bit of vanilla. Okay? But I can't totally merge them, because if I'm going love and anger, there's no love anger. You know what I mean? So it doesn't quite look like ice cream. So we kind of have one in one hand, have one in the other hand. They can't merge. So what do? There is a third place. I can't draw a triangle quickly enough. There's a triangle somewhere in there. There it is. So there's a third place, and that's the place of witness. So if you're witnessing yourself pendulum swing to one choice, oh man, I really want to go out tonight, and you pendulum swing to the other choice. Oh man, staying in tonight would be really good for me. Which one do I do? And you pendulum swinging. The point at the top is that you see that both are an option, okay? And this becomes a non-judgment point, a point up here, a point of seeing both sides as equal options, but having to pick one, right? So if we stay in that place of non-duality, or in the paradox of wholeness, oneness, and we see both, we literally end up choosing neither one. We choose neither at that point. But we have to pick one sometimes. I gotta eat, I gotta go out, I gotta stay, we still have to pick a choice. When we sit in a place of non-duality or unity, or like the paradox of seeing both, from a place of stillness, there is alignment. Okay, there is a way that we can say, if I choose nothing, something inside of me, from this stillness, this meditative stillness, something inside of me will feel a draw or a pull towards something. I will feel more aligned with one or the other, but from a place of true balance, which makes it more of an aligned truth. Oh, I'm sorry. Holy crap, I've been talking that whole time with that graphic up. Sorry. So, wow, I've been doing this thing with a triangle behind. My apologies. So I've been doing this, looking at the wrong camera on screen, and there was a wolf blocking me the whole time while I was talking about this duality. So if we're in the, do I stay in? Do I go out? Do I say yes? Do I say no? Do I love it? Do I hate it? We go to a place of, I'm not going to pick either one. I'm going to meditate on stillness. I see both sides. They're both equal. So I'm going to go up here. I'm just repeating what I just did because I was blocked. You're present. Thanks. Okay, great. Yes, I'm glad this is helping. That this is So the thing is, we still have to pick one. And here's the thing that's really important. I'm not picking either one because I understand both. That's the paradox. We sit in presence. That is a singularity, a union point, top of the triangle or the pendulum swing, right there. Okay? So if I sit in this place of presence, I choose none. One of two things will happen. Okay? Either I will notice that I'm just naturally drawing to one side. We call that your inner pendulum. And you will swing to one side just in a place of peace and non-judgment and non-duality. You might steer over to one and say, oh, I guess I'm going this way. The other thing that will happen is you will literally choose none and go, you know what? I really like it right here where I am. I like not picking either one of these. I get them both. They're both totally valid. If somebody picks either one, I'm not judging them. Go either way. I don't care. I like being right here on the fence. That feels good to me. And I like this peacefulness, this presence of this non-duality. And in that place, instead of leaning towards one, we might find that we actually are finding more presence and peace in doing neither. Yasmin said that she likes the idea of that. This really does work. If from that place of picking neither, I'll just finish this off because this is a thing, you suddenly just don't care, you're completely easygoing, you'd be happy with either one, I kid you not, flip a coin. Just literally, just flip a coin, leave it up to trust and faith that the coin will tell you what to do, and it's not a better or worse option, and just run at it. Just go at it. Don't fall back into the cycle of the pendulum. Run down that side and go, I guess this is what it is, fully committed to the chance of the coin, and believe that there's no such thing as chance, that it's really all part of some greater good, that has no purpose, and that whole paradox and duality, and just go with it. Best thing to do sometimes is stay out of your head. Hope that helps. Leah's waving and saying hi. Nobody else can see her, but I'm saying hi to Leah. Hi, Leah. Yes, says Yasmin. Great. Okay. Any other questions? Can I help in some way to make some clarity? Thank you. Thanks a lot for asking that, Yasmin, because that helps me to put, this is all just concepts of lecture. You want to be able to make use of these concepts in life, and otherwise it's just ideas that won't make any difference, right? And I want to make a difference. I want to help. So thanks a lot for asking, and I hope you to apply it. Just waiting for any more comments or questions. So Lydia, even though you kind of came in right at the end of it, that was a very good summary of everything else that we talked about. We pretty much covered this concept of okay. Does Leota want to be on screen? You want to say hi? All right, let's do it. Since we're at the end, I'm gonna add Leo.
Can I tell you something? So when my mommy gets her work a job, I'm going to be babysitting for like the first time I attend a memo.
Well,
Wow, you can have a
well, by
babysitter.
a young person instead of like,
Wow, that's gonna be
yeah.
lots of fun.
Yeah, I can't wait. My mommy's getting a job at a golf club, I think, and I'm going to be.
I'm having an interview.
And I'm going to be at a park, I think, with a babysitter.
Well, I hope you have a lot of fun. Thanks for saying hi, Leota.
Yeah.
Okay, we can say bye. Nice to see you. So for everyone else, Lydia here is a regular. She's been in almost every single one. Maybe I think she has actually been in every one of these weeks. This is week 24. Been doing this for 24 weeks, an hour every week, and Lydia's been to pretty much all of them. So lots of blessings to and gratitude for Lydia and for all of the regulars like Georgia and Yasmin and Johnny that drop in and say hi. It makes a big difference. A lot of people have said to me, because I said, I could pre-record this, and it would be way shorter and more direct. But a lot of people said that they really love that it is live, and so I'm doing this partly as a service to be more engaging with you and to share with you my energy live. And there's something that connects us all on this. So thank you very much. I hope you have a wonderful night. Much love to you all. And a blessing for peacefulness and non-duality and presence and feeling that there is something inside of you that always knows when you're at a place of peace and stillness. All right? Cheers to you all. Have a great night.